Hello and welcome back to Heidi with the Updo Collective, where I teach how to do bridal hair. And so today I'm going to start a series where I'm going through updos that I've done this past season, and I'm going to show you how I accomplished them. So I'll show you a real photo of something that I did, and then I'm going to show you how I did that. So today we're doing the kind of Midi French twist that is a little bit more of a modern take on it. And I'm going to show you how it can actually be really simple. So there's a couple different ways to achieve it, but today I'm going to do the way that I did exactly on this bridesmaid and kind of walk you through start to finish. So to start out for this updo, more of your time is going to be spent in prep. So you can't just approach the hair and be ready to go straight off the bat and start pinning. We need to do a lot of prep first. So that means you want to make sure that we've got texture in it, texture powder, texture spray, so the hair has a lot of grip because it's all going to be brought up in one sweep, so it needs a lot of grip. And then you want to have a little bit of your curl in it to start. So once you've created your grip, that means kind of going in layer by layer and setting the hair with texture spray, getting texture powder on the roots. Then you're going to come through and we're going to make sure that the ends of her hair has some bend in it, and that's because that's the part that's going to be out of this. So anything that we are going to have showing out of this French twist, we want to have curled. And I find it a little bit easier to have some of the movement in the hair through curling before I bring it up into the twist. Now, the other thing to note here is to get this particular twist, you need to have fairly long hair. So it definitely needs to be past the shoulders. You can get sort of a version of it with shorter hair, but this just particular technique that I'm going to do involves having longer hair. So just to recap, you're going to prep the hair with texture spray throughout, texture powder at the roots to make sure you have a lot of grip, and then we're going to go through and we're just putting a quick curl or bend in the ends. And if you need to have a little back combing, that is helpful on hair that's really fine and is really flat. So if you want a little lift to this updo at the root, you want to back comb a little bit before we even start. And then I'm just going to curl the front away from her face so we kind of have a visual of how that's going to look. But you can also do this at the end. So very quick. And then lastly, I have a side part here, and I'm clipping away from the very top of her head to the top of her ear. We're going to section that away and we're going to put that up at the end. So we're leaving the heavy side of her side part, leaving the heavy side out. And this side, her thinner side, we're only leaving the front that's going to stay out of this twist. Okay, so because it's going to be in the middle, we want to kind of scoop this hair up. And before you start, you want to make sure that the top is how you want it to be. So once we scoop it all up and do it into the twist, you don't want to have any weird bumps or kinks or parts here. So what I recommend doing, this is kind of already prepped, but you're going to just take small sections here and make sure that we have a little touch of back combing here, just like so. And that will just give a little bit of volume at the crown and make sure that it's as you want it to be. So we don't want to have, like I said, any weird like bubbling happening. And so by controlling the top here before we start, we will avoid that. So I'm just taking really thin sections and doing a little bit of back combing, and then I'll bring this all back over, and that just creates a touch of lift over the top and helps lock in this top part into place. Now you can finish this top with a little bit of texture spray to kind of lock it in. I like to use texture spray instead of hairspray because it locks it in without it being sticky, and it's still workable. So you can use a paddle brush, and we're gonna just bring this up so it's a little bit towards the mid, and I'm gonna smooth it away from her face. So I'm brushing away. And I'm not going to brush into the top that I just back combed, but I'm just brushing it into my hand so we can get it up higher. And the same thing on the other side. So you want to get it kind of as high as you want it to be. And you can use your fingers to kind of smooth it out a little bit. And what you're going to do is pull it farther over to the weak side, or sorry, to the heavy side of the hair, because we're gonna twist in this direction. So I have it over directed this way towards myself, and I'm just kind of working out the kinks on the top before I do the twist. And then I'm gonna come under her hair, so I'm gripping underneath, and I'm twisting it around into itself, okay? So you can see what it looks like on this side, what it looks like on that side, and my thumb is just holding it in place. I'll do that one more time. So you can see why you need to have some length for this. So I'm over directing it towards myself, and then I'm gonna go over the hair, so I'm gripping it over and then twisting it into itself. So this is where, at this point, you kind of got to decide how much what hair you want to have left out. If you have a lot of hair here and you don't want as much, you can tighten your twist. So I have a lot of this hair here. I can pull this up even higher and bring more hair in, and that kind of leaves less hair, as you can see here. So if I grab all this hair and pull it up even higher, I can even tuck in more and make a lot of this disappear, right? But if I want more out, let me start this again, then my twist is gonna be a little bit smaller. So you can kind of adjust like that. And so that's how you kind of decide the style that you want of it before you start doing any pinning. So I'm just gonna go through this one more time. Pull it over, and now I'll show you how I pin. So you can see why if you have curl in the end, why you wanna kind of have that out and have that curl to start. Now I'm gonna take my pins and I'm gonna start at this heaviest part. So this is right where my thumb is. My thumb is in here kind of holding this in place. And I push my pin toward the scalp, so it's toward the head, right there. And then I'm turning it and pushing it in. I'm just gonna keep doing that. So this kind of makes it stay already. But I'm going right next to it. I'm going in, turning it, and then pushing it towards myself. And so this is starting to lock that twist in, but you're not gonna see a bunch of pins here. I'm gonna do one more, and then I'm gonna make sure before it gets really tight that the design is how I want. So I still need to secure all this. I need to secure it from the other side. But before we get too heavy at pins, I wanna make sure that the top is good. So I'm gonna just gently kind of pull and loosen some of this top section out. And because you did that back combing, that will come out nicely here. And you wanna just check from the front and make sure that you haven't lost the integrity of the top. So you're just gonna use your fingers to kind of pull around and make sure it's how you want it. And then I'll show you here from the back. So we have this twist started, and I'm gonna leave a couple of these strands out here, but the rest of it, I'm just gonna secure into the twist. So what I want to do is put more pins down here where this twist is to make sure this is locked in, and then it's tight enough on this side. And I'm gonna put some pins down the center to make sure it's really locked in here as well. So I'm gonna start just over here. And where this twist starts, I'm just grabbing the hair and pushing it in. And if you feel like they're slipping out, then take less hair. So I'm not even opening the bobby pin. I'm just making sure it's gripping a little bit of hair as I go. I'll do the same thing up here. So a couple more up here. So you just want to do that a little bit throughout so you start to feel that it's tight. And you can have her kind of shake her head and make sure it's good. And then you want to go down internally. So that means that with this part up here, I want to just secure this inside this twist. So I'm going to take my pin and go down on the inside and go down into that twist. So I can feel it kind of hitting some of those other bobby pins that I've already put in there, which is nice. And I'll put a couple more down inside. Like I said, I can feel those hitting them, so I know they're crossing inside, which is great. So now what we have here is we have kind of the midi twist, and at this point you can leave these for after we've kind of done the top, because now I'm going to show you what I'm going to do over here. So this part now we kind of have to do some detailing with. So similarly to the back, I'm just going to add some curls on this side. So I'm not doing really spending a lot of time curling, but I want to get a little bend in the end. I find that if I do some pre-curling like this, then when I'm swooping all the hair up and trying to visualize how I want it to look, I can tell how it's going to look better than if I wait to curl at the end. And I can always come back and detail the curls better after I've done the initial upsweep. And I'm using a 1 1/4 inch curling iron here. Okay, so now you're gonna decide how much hair do you wanna have out, and if any. So do we want it all swept up into this? Do we wanna have a little bit of a front fringe? Now she's got like a really heavy front fringe, but you can decide how much you wanna have left out here. And then you also have to decide if you want it to be more of a down sweep like this, or if you want to bring it up a little bit higher. I'm going to opt for the up and higher look today because I think that's elegant. So I'm going to use my metal comb to just bring this hair across, kind of get a visual for how I want it to be swept. Now, if you're wanting more volume, you're going to want to do some back combing here at the roots. If you don't want any volume, then you can just leave it as is. And if you find that you're getting a little bit of kind of like loose up here and you don't have any place for it, then you either want to divide this section in half. So we can take this in half here, or we want to just make sure we have it pressed down in a way. So however you want it to look. So if you want it to be more of a classic French twist, then having a swoop like this is okay. But if you want a little more modern, I would say let's divide it so we can have more of a modern look. So I'm going to take this piece and kind of blend it into the top. I'm just going to set it over so I can kind of come back and see how that looks. So it's kind of swept that way. And then this one, I'm going to bring around and pin. So I will bring this up this way. So it's kind of going above the ear, gives it kind of more of a pulled up look there. And then I'll show you how it looks on the other side. Okay. So we have this piece over here. I'm going to continue on bringing this piece over. And we have a couple options here. I'm going to do this one last. We can either bring it into the twist we already created and add another section of curl, or we can bring it up high if we want to keep that clean and have something to work with up here. So I think for today, a couple different options. I am going to bring it over here and kind of add it into this twist that we already have. So it's this whole section of hair, and you can give it a hairspray before you even pin, just to make sure it stays nice and clean. I'm turning it, so it's already getting a twist. You can see that we've got that curl here, and I'm gonna put one pin in just to hold it and visually make sure it's how I want it. So we've got that tucked in there, and just a little bit of a curl here, which I like. And then we can detail this top piece. So I like to make sure that it's kind of blending with the top section and there's no delineation of where this hair went. Hold it kind of loose here, and you can kind of see how we should sweep it. I think if I go, this is kind of less of a technique and more of kind of playing around to see what looks nice. So this is an option. This is me taking the curl kind of swooping it over the top like this. Kind of like that. It makes it look a little more modern and loose to have a little piece out here. So we're gonna do that. So once you get the foundation of an updo, it's really fun because then you can just kind of play with things and make it look more whimsical or more modern. You can have a lot of different options here. So you see how this is kind of popping up? I haven't pinned this yet, this is just sitting, but this is what I want to get down to kind of fit on the top. So I'm gonna start by pinning inside. So I'm opening my pin and I'm gonna go on the inside of this curl, push it down, and I can kind of use my fingers to pull it in the direction I want it to go. And then I've got a little pop right there. So I'm gonna just take my pin and go right into that. And I can do a couple more pins there and they'll be hidden because I can just kind of move the hair around to hide them. So I just go internally and then I can just use the other hair that I have here to kind of tuck over that and hide that. So now that you have that in, I'm just gonna get the flyaways up with my hairspray here. And you can see if the back needs any more touching up. So on this side, you can see it's just like kind of a clean sweep over. And in the back, if you like this kind of pieces out, you can leave that. I would maybe recommend on this, I feel like a little tighter curl might be nice. So my curling iron is a little bit big to create a tighter curl on this one. So I don't have my flat iron heated up here. But I would usually use a flat iron to kind of get these ends because you can get a tighter curl here. But overall, I think you get the visual. And then you just want to make sure it's secure. If you need to stick any more pins on that side, you can do that. But otherwise, this is kind of a fun, modern French twist. And then, you know, lastly, make sure you don't have like a really long piece like this. But you can, you know, pin this back if you need it back, but otherwise having a little piece out adds a little softness to it. And if you ever find yourself like here, you can see that I have a little head of the bobby pin showing. I like to make sure those things are covered. And so you can take hair from around it. So I'm just kind of loosening this with the bobby pin. See how I'm pulling that out? And you can still see the pin right there, but we're gonna go inside and pulling this over the bobby pin. Inside, pulling it, and I'm doing that twisting technique again. This time it's way more internal. And then I just kind of use the hair to spread around that. And so that hides the bobby pin. You don't see it anymore. Voila. All right, friends, that's all we have for now. If you want more information on how to get more training, more Updo tutorials, you can sign up in the link below and get on the list to make sure that you're in the know for all the trainings and things that are coming down the pipeline. Once again, I'm Heidi and I'm with the Updo Collective. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.